Hey, I'm Jake. I'm the marketing manager at Beachy, and today we're reviewing the all-new SuperX from Cannondale. Cannondale has just launched their revamped gravel racer, the SuperX. This is an evolution of their Super 6 Evo SE gravel bike that Lachlan Morton rode to Unbound victory last season. For Cannondale fans, the SuperX name is something you'll be familiar with. It was the name of their cyclocross race bikes for many years before the advent of gravel racing, and they're bringing the name back for 2025. The bike has clear influence from the previous generation Super 6 Evo SE and the current generation Super 6 Evo road race bike. Now, why did they ask me to review this bike? I have a lot of experience on-road and off-road to pull from, making me a great person to evaluate the on-road and off-road capabilities of the SuperX. So let's dive right into this bike. Cannondale has prioritized three things when building this: aerodynamics, weight, and compliance. Three things very important to the modern gravel racer. Now, what is compliance? Compliance is basically comfort. You want a bike that has a little bit of compliance to it, a little bit of give. So a few millimeters of deflection in the rear end of the bike is going to translate to a much more comfortable ride, and it's going to keep your butt, your legs, and all your limbs just a bit happier the deeper you get into a ride. This bike was aerodynamically optimized for riding at around 35k an hour, rather than the 45k an hour that they developed their road bikes to ride at. Mainly because gravel is just a bit slower than on the road. The average speed of gravel races tends to fall around that 35k number at the front end, and they really built this bike to be fast for their pro gravel racers. Weight came into the equation at almost everywhere on the frame. They've used their Series 1 carbon throughout to make sure it has a very light frame weight and something that can be competitive on all the climbs that you'll encounter in one of the big gravel races in North America. The rear end of the bike is where the compliance really comes into play. You'll notice the top tube gets a lot thinner heading towards the seat post, and the seat tube as you head down towards the front derailleur also gets a lot thinner. They're also utilizing their Save seat post, which has been used in numerous models of their road and gravel bikes to provide a lot of rear end compliance without sacrificing aerodynamics or weight. On top of that, they've spec'd a Pro logo saddle, which I found to be very comfortable. At the front end, the bike uses Cannondale's own Conceal stem. Paired with FSA's bars, you get a super clean front end with all of the cable routing passing through internally from the bars into the stem and then down into the frame through Cannondale's Delta steer tube. To get through a big gravel race, you're gonna need some food, and Cannondale has added a top tube mounting point to allow you to mount a top tube bag without the need for straps, keeping the lines of the bike clean, but making sure that you can stay fed and have access to all you need throughout your ride. This one's spec'd with a full GRX Di2 2x12 speed drivetrain. I think this is the ideal drivetrain for this bike, as it gives you the top end speed needed to ride it like a road bike, but also that low end gear range to make sure you're able to get up the toughest gravel climbs. Now, on the previous gen, you might have seen some riders like Lachlan Morton pushing up to a 2.0 tire in the front. Cannondale's kept that big clearance on this one with official clearance for 51mm in the front and a 47mm in the rear, giving you lots of opportunity to fit some big tires to give you even more comfort on those big days. Now, if the SuperX had a little bit bigger tire clearance, I think this would be the perfect bike. Although 51mm in the front, 47 in the rear are pretty big tires, we're seeing a lot of racers now opting to run up to 2.1 inch 29er tires. And not being able to run those isn't necessarily a knock against this bike, but it is something I wish there was the opportunity to spec. I've been using this bike on all kinds of gravel rides, from short rides after work in my favorite trails in Pacific Spirit Park, to longer all-day epics on the dikes around Richmond and Pitt Meadows. This bike has performed flawlessly in both use cases. On longer gravel rides, you really start to notice that compliance in the rear end, and the efficiency overall of the bike is noticeable as you get to the end of the day and are still able to keep riding quickly. On my shorter gravel rides, I like to try and find little side hits and have a bit of fun while riding, and this bike has even kept up with that quite well. The tighter geometry makes the handling a lot sharper than a lot of the gravel bikes I've ridden in the past, which makes it a lot of fun for ducking through tight trails and finding little bits of secret single track laced here and there. This bike is a natural born climber. I've been really enjoying taking it on longer climbs, as that lightweight frame really makes it feel like a road bike when climbing. On shorter climbs, the wheels really spin up well and allow me to punch over the top of climbs without having to go too deep. Although this is a gravel bike, it really works well on-road too. My very first pedal strokes on this bike were in the alley behind the shop, and it accelerated like a road bike. I immediately thought, well, what if I put road wheels on this? And so I did experiment with riding it on road wheels, and it felt just like a road bike. Now, although these stock wheels and tires do perform fairly well on the road for gravel wheels, it really came to life with those lighter wheels and narrower tires. I would be really happy to use this as my all-in-one bike for both road and gravel use. Now, it's been a few years since I've raced between the tape of a cyclocross course, but the SuperX name really had me curious, could this bike be a great cyclocross bike? And I would say, yes, it lives up to the SuperX heritage and would be an awesome cyclocross bike. The geometry is a bit tighter than a lot of other gravel bikes out there, making this great for the tight, twisty turns of a cyclocross course. The big tire clearance for gravel translates to big mud clearance for cyclocross racing. If you put 33C tires in this, you're gonna have much more than 10 mil of clearance for mud and debris on either side, making it perfect for the muddiest, gnarliest cyclocross courses. So value for money, I think the SuperX is a great value for money bike. With GRX Di2 components and those carbon reserve wheels, you're getting a bike that needs no upgrades out the box. I really think Cannondale has nailed their gravel race bike with this. It's fast, it's efficient, and it's a lot of fun to ride. They've taken everything we loved about that previous generation, Super 6 Evo SE, and just made it a little bit better. For me, this is my favorite gravel bike that I've had the chance to ride in the past year, and I can't wait to get out on it a bit more. I would say that this and the Topstone are two very different bikes. I think Cannondale offering both the SuperX and the Topstone is a great indication that the gravel market is growing, and we're looking at more and more niche bikes for specific purposes. I love my Topstone, and I'm probably gonna keep riding it for a lot longer because it performs so well off-road and is so comfortable for really big days. That being said, if I was looking to do a bit of gravel racing, or I just wanted something that would make me feel a bit faster, the SuperX is probably what I would go for nowadays. This bike has really impressed me, and I think it would be an excellent gravel bike for a lot of people out there. The SuperX is a great one bike option if you're looking for something to do road rides some days and gravel rides the others. Add in a second set of road wheels, and you're gonna have a bike that's gonna be just as dynamic on-road as off-road, depending on what wheels you're riding. For those looking to do a bit of gravel racing or who just want a fast gravel bike, the SuperX is really gonna be the perfect bike for them. It's gonna be very comfortable, but still light and still very aerodynamic, which is really important for anyone who's prioritizing racing or speed. This would also be a great gravel bike for people who are looking to do a little bit of cross racing in addition to gravel riding. A lot of bikes kind of have to excel in either gravel or cross, whereas this one I think fits really nicely in the middle. It makes a great gravel bike, but it's also not gonna hold you back on the cross course and feel too sloppy and too sluggish. Thanks so much for tuning into this bike review, and I look forward to seeing you out on the trails or in the shop.